Thank you. Mr. Wittman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll thank our witnesses for joining us today. Admiral Aquilino, I want to go to you and go back a year when Admiral Davidson was here as your predecessor, and he talked about the erosion of strategic deterrence in that region and how incredibly important that is to make sure we keep the Chinese at bay. I know that you spoke about the battle force as it exists today with the PLA Navy of approximately 350 ships and submarines, and more than 130 of those are major surface combatants. You also spoke about having a fleet of 420 battleships by 2025, and I'll add that DOD says that by 2030, the PLA Navy probably has about 460 ships. That is very, very different than the course that we are on with the number of ships that we have. And it's not just the number of ships that we're building, but it's also the A sub O, as you know, operational availability for the ships that we have. Many times maintenance availability is extended or time at sea extended, so we're wearing our ships out faster because we're double pumping them on deployments. From your perspective, if we're unable to accelerate the fielding of new vessels and maintaining the vessels that we have to have a high level of A sub O operational availability, what do you think will be the primary risks going forward in the next 5 years in Indo-PACOM?
Thanks, Congressman. So, you highlight one of the challenges and things we're watching very closely is the expansive and growth in both capability and capacity of the security challengers in the region as it compares to ours. So let me start by saying we still have the world's greatest Navy. We need to maintain and keep that advantage, and there's a variety of ways that you can get to it. The CNO, again, just the other day talked about the unmanned capacity and how does that plug in. With regard to the A sub O, through the Global Force Management System, we are operating through a supply-based model. That supply-based accounts for the sustainability in the near, mid, and long-term aspects. So we've operated in that construct, and we have to continue to watch the capability and capacity differences.
To take that a step further, not just U.S. capability and capacity and presence in the Asia-Pacific, but also the ability for us to leverage much more in-depth relationships with friends and allies in the region. That's a big place, lots of things to do. If we don't have friends that can help us in certain ways, our risk calculus becomes much, much more complex in order to place that risk on the Chinese. Give me your perspective about what you think that we need to be doing, and I'd love to hear Dr. Ratner's thoughts on this, about how we work with allies to a greater extent, like Japan, like Vietnam, like Australia. We know AUKUS, and you talked about that agreement. But I wanted to get a sense about how do we do that, and then how do we get to the point where we are not just having that relationship on paper, but that has to be manifested in how we operationalize that agreement. How do we jointly not only operate, but train together at the highest levels so that if something does happen, it's not, well, let's figure out how we communicate and those sorts of things. Give me your perspective on that.
Yeah, I concur. So you don't surge trust and you don't just come together and operate. But what we're trying to do, again, over 120 exercises a year, and all of the chiefs got together in our discussions. The intent was, hey, we need to increase complexity of these to be able to be interoperable, interdependable. Some examples, we just finished Keen Age with the Japanese. My partner, General Yamazaki, and I met every day for 10 days in coordination with our forces. Really important, very high end. As we sit here today right now, the Army and the Marine Corps are both on the ground in the Philippines and in Thailand to do Cobra Gold and Balikatan. Those relationships are solid. We're about to do RIMPAC in a couple of months, the largest maritime exercise on the planet. I think over 27 nations coming together. And again, we've increased the complexity every year so those are the big ones. On the small front, every day we come together, if we come in contact with our allies and partners, the direction I've given the team is we are going to ensure we can quickly come together, be instantly interoperable, and then work together at any point, at any time. That's the approach we've taken.
Dr. Ratner.
Congressman, I'll just say we obviously have a very wide spectrum of partners, some of which we operate at a very high level, others which have less
And I
mature.
do apologize, someone's time has expired. We try to move on. I should have said that up front. Even if you're still in the middle of a question, 5 minutes is the limit. We move on to the next member. So we'll have to take that last piece of it for the record.